Hello everybody, I'm John Self and welcome back to Self Perspective, a weekly video blog with information and insight to hopefully help you manage your career. We took the month of August off. A lot of new searches were starting and I was traveling a lot, but it was also a good time to refresh the content batteries. So we're glad to be back. Today we're going to cover two topics. Working with recruiters is first up. One of the most frequently asked questions is, how do you build a good relationship with a recruiter? Well, first of all, you got to have a good career brand. Recruiters don't like to take chances on candidates who may have a great impressive record of accomplishment, but who have a brand that says they're difficult to deal with, they're arrogant, their boards always had problems with them. So you have to have a good brand. Recruiters, understandably, are risk averse, and that includes internal recruiters. So aside from having a great brand, you also need to know how to perform. And that is, when they call you for help on a search, take the call. And we've talked about this before. But there's another thing that you can do that's even more powerful. And that is, when you get a chance to work with a recruiter, you want to overperform in all phases of the screening process. Get back to them when you say you're going to get back to them. Work hard to make the interview successful. I remember David Letterman used to say so many times on his talk show that he would just get so frustrated when stars would come out to promote a book or a movie and they would just sit there and be kind of lame in their responses and be just very reactionary instead of coming out and really working at it and to be engaging. Well, in an interview, you need to work at it to be engaging. You know, the vast majority of candidates, when they come to us, they answer questions. They have to talk about their past track record, they talk about their credentials, they talk about some of their accomplishments. But rarely do they sell their value. Most talk in the voice of, this is what I've done. And to be successful going forward, you have to talk in the voice of, this is what I can do for you. There's one thing that makes a recruiter really happy. And that's when the client says, wow, this was a great slate of candidates. You did a great job. So be part of that solution for the recruiter. A lot of people ask, how can I get better at interviewing? I really don't think I do a good job of it. Well, the truth is that most candidates really suck at interviewing. They're good at talking about their history. They're good at talking about their experience, but very rarely do they really go to the extra mile and sell their value. So how can you get better at this? Well, it takes a lot of practice and some expert advice to get you there. So another question is then, well, what goes in when you hire a coach to help you improve interviewing? What goes into the process? Number one, we start with helping you understand what your value statement really is. Why should that client hire you? And what value can you deliver them to help them become more successful? This is a concept that my colleague Nancy Swain years ago developed, and she was very successful in evolving this concept, and it's been very helpful to a lot of candidates. And so we've taken some of Nancy's great work and really applied it to the executive search side, and here's what we tell you. Understand your value. Get your 4 or 5 signature strengths and understand what the quantifiable evidence is to support those strengths, and then use that statement that you write to guide your messaging from your resume all the way through the various interviews. Now, when we start working with a candidate, the first thing we do is we sit down with them and say, tell us your story. Tell us about your mom and dad. Tell us about your early life. What are the values you got from that experience? Because a lot of times there will be great stories or great examples that will help an interviewer connect with you about your values, about your upbringing, about something you have in common. And that's really important. Then we also do a mock interview. We ask you questions on a series of scenarios. And then we'll take that interview and break it down and show you how you can flip those questions to be positive in messaging your value. Now, there are various kinds of interviews in a recruiting process. There's that dreaded telephone interview. Now you're seeing more and more Skype interviews, and a lot of candidates really are uncomfortable with that. And we have a lot of up-the-nose views of people on the Skype interview. So you've got to master the TV element of interviewing now. And then you have the face-to-face interview. And that's where you can really engage the recruiter on a one-on-one basis. So understand the various interviews. And for each interview category, there's a strategy that goes with that. The last thing you really need to do is manage your references. I have so many recruiters tell me that, gosh, they have great candidates and they get down to the references and it's like there's a disconnect between what the references are saying or not saying and the candidate. So don't stumble at the end of the race. It's like golf. To get this low score, you've got to put the ball into the hole. Don't just lag it up and hope that it goes in. Hey, I hope this interview information has been helpful. If you have questions, you can reach me at asktherecruiter@johngeself.com. We'll be happy to give you a free consult on your resume and your interviewing skills. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you next week.